Hello and welcome to today's live stream. Just getting my work area set up, zoomed into how I want. See how that looks. One of these days I'm going to get my setup so I don't have to worry about this. I think that looks pretty visible. Let's see. Okay, got a delay on my screen, but it looks like everything's set up. Okay. So today I'm going to make a zebra striped shell monster. So I've got my seashell ready, and I went with one that's a little bit darker because I want to use my base color as this mixture of white and pearl. I've got some zebra print here printed out, so I can use as a reference because zebra stripes, it's not just like stripes on a shirt. Some black clay to do the stripes. I have my sculpting tools, and I have some glass beads, 2 different sizes for the eyes. I'm not for sure what I want to do yet, depending on how big I make the head, and a little tooth to give him that underbite that I do with a lot of my creations. I also have some foil in case I need to bulk it up. But lots of times I don't do that with my shell monsters, but I noticed this opening in here is pretty big, so he might end up being a little bit larger, and that's why I gave the option of 2 different sizes for the eyes here. All right. So I'm going to start off with tearing off some of my mixture here. Like I said, this is pearl and white. I hate using straight white because it picks up everything. If you mix some pearl in with it, it makes it less likely to collect all the particles, and then it gives it this nice little shimmer, which I thought works really well for a sea creature. So I mixed this up before the stream started, but it's been a little bit. I did it earlier this morning. So I'm just going to soften up a little bit before I start sculpting out the shape of it. Good morning, how are you? Let's see if I can hopefully not butcher your name. Yeah, I'm Naviesia? Or is it Nave? This one's a hard one for me. I'm so sorry. Good morning, Heather. Hello, is it Maya? I am doing good today. How are you? All right, I am going to try to get a little bit of foil out. A lot of my shell monsters are kind of slug-like, so that's what I'm going to do for this one. The sculpt itself is pretty simple and doesn't take long, but I think the stripes will take a while. Good evening, Ms. I'm glad I could kind of start a stream on the weekend a little bit earlier, so it's not as late for you. I know I have a lot of viewers overseas, so if this time frame works, I'll try to do at least one of these a month. Sadly, I can't do it during the week at this time because I'm at my day job. So I don't want my foil to be too bumpy, because if the clay over it, especially if the clay's not very thick, it's going to follow along that foil and get some of that texture. So I want this guy to be really smooth, and I'll try to do it probably a little bit thicker just so I can avoid that, but it's still better to smooth this out as much as you can. Heather says, this time is awesome. I'm in my studio, so no kids to take care of. Ms. says, I just woke up, so this is great. Awesome. I know my wife and I are out of town next week, but maybe I'll do this even more so if this works for a lot more people, because obviously, I mean, you know, I want as many, want this to work for as many people as it can. So that's kind of basically what I'm thinking is it won't fall apart once the clay is on there, but I'm going to rest this in here, and he's going to kind of rest back like that, and then I'll do the details. But I also want him to be a little bit bigger because that gives me more room to do the stripes. Looked like I was having some technical difficulties, so I had to stop for a second. I don't know if it's what it's doing, but hopefully it's okay on everybody's end. As far as subscribers, I have just over 7,000. Right now, I don't know how many viewers are on because it's just it hasn't updated. It just says 1, and I know there's more than that on just from the chat. Usually my live streams, I get about 10 to 20 people on. Which is, to me, it works out really well because it's a manageable number to interact with. So what do you do on your channel? One thing I definitely recommend is you want to post content regularly. I've been doing this for about 2.5 years. So for me, I mean, that seems like a while, but it really, in the grand scheme of YouTube, that's not very long. But you have to post, very consistently. Otherwise, I think the the subscribers just, they move on to something else. All right, so I'm just spreading this out so I can go over my start of my slug. I will have to put more on here. Yeah, YouTube's definitely a snowball effect. I mean, the bigger your channel gets, the more other people notice you. I mean, it's weird, and also like if you get stuff, once you get to I think a certain size too, or if you have a video that kind of starts to take off, then the YouTube algorithm will recognize that, and it'll start recommending that to other people that like similar things. I have one video that's doing extremely better than all of my other videos. And I think that's pretty normal when I've looked at other channels around my size. So right now I'm just getting this covered, smoothing it out. One thing I'll want to do is if I cover this completely with the clay, I'll want to make an air hole, because if you have any air trapped in that foil, which I mean you will, that can expand and kind of distort your sculpt. But if you have an air hole somewhere, you won't have to worry about it. The other thing I can do with this guy, which is what I'll probably do, is, now that I'm thinking about it, is leave this end open because it's going to be down in the shell. And that shell's not going to be sealed shut, so there'll be room for air to get out. I just want to make sure none of it's visible from, looking in. So you can kind of see how that shell sits in there, or how it sits in the shell. Heather asked, you bake it in the shell, right? And I'm like, yes. The only thing I would recommend is, I've gotten shells from different places, and I always clean them out first because sometimes they'll have stuff in there. So you want to make sure your shells are nice and clean. I did that before the stream this morning. The other issue sometimes is balancing it with the weight of the clay, and sometimes I'll bake it with like a piece of clay underneath or something to kind of keep it upright, or even like here I could build some foil up if I don't need that piece after it's baked. Like I know it's going to balance, I just don't want it to tip over in the oven. You can even do like a little nest of foil. So again, I'm just smoothing this in. Now I want to add some little antennae. So I'm going to soften up a little bit more. Roll this out into a little bit of a cylinder shape. These are going to be pretty big, or pretty thick. I do want to give them a little more shape to it. And I'm getting some notifications on my phone. Hello, Gloria. How are you? I need to turn my airplane mode on my phone. I wonder if that would work, or is that going to shut down my YouTube? I'll leave it alone this time. I like the little emoji of the kitty peeking out of the box. That's really cute. Glad you're doing okay. Just working on this little shell monster this morning. Getting his basic shape, and then I'm going to add some, once I get all his details on there, I'm going to add some zebra stripes. All right. I don't feel like I'm overly talkative this morning. You guys are going to have to give me some subjects to talk about. Starting getting ready for some Halloween projects. Last year I did 31 days of Halloween, but I'm not going to do that this year. Just a little bit different schedule, and that was quite an ordeal last year, and I have some really big projects planned for this year. So I know it'd be really hard to work those in with it. But I've got some projects I'm really excited to do. I'll be starting on one here in a couple days, so that way I have it done in time for the first video. Heather says, I'm enjoying your new Facebook group. Thank you. For those new here, I do have a Facebook group that is Andrew Creation Club, and I announce any of my live streams. I share video and images of some of my projects on there, and other viewers are encouraged to share their stuff there too. So it just gives a little small community to share our creativity with. Oh, Gloria says, all right, Halloween, it's not so big here. So, Gloria, do you have anything that's similar to that? Because you're in Germany, correct? So I've got this little guy bulked out. I'm really liking the shape he's starting to get. You can kind of turn him sideways. Maybe put my hand there so it has some more contrast. And you can see how he's shaping out. And one thing I've done in the past when I put them in these shells is I've put some liquid clay with it, or drip it in there to kind of glue it in place. So I'll probably do that, and I of course didn't get that ready on my desk. Because I have to forget at least one thing, so I have to get up and walk away from my desk. I'm going to kind of just bend this a little bit more so he snuggles down in there tighter. I think that'll work. He's really big for the shell, but I like him. And I'll bake this guy after the stream, and I'll try to put some images later today in the Facebook group. So that's a good way to see some of the completed live stream projects. Sadly, I can't do like the baking shows and have one already made, so I can pull it out of the oven at the end. Yeah, he definitely wants to tilt over. I'm trying to figure out a good center for him. Gloria says, yes, Germany, and not really. Some amusement parks make horror nights, and we have some small Halloween events for kids like pumpkin carving, but I don't live in a really big city. Yeah. Anyway, yeah, and there's not, like, as far as around here, I don't think there's much done. At least I haven't heard anything coming up now. I know they've done, they do kind of like makeshift haunted houses and stuff like that, and I think they do some zombie stuff. But even trick-or-treating, even before this year, has really gone down. I don't even know if the stuff I'm doing this year for my channel I'll even label it as Halloween, because I don't want it to feel like, I don't want people to think that after October it's not something that they want to watch or something, because I'm going to do, like, I have a Jack Skellington sculpture coming up. I want to do a zombie unicorn. I think I might do a mask from the Order, and then I have a haunted tree. Those are my 4 that I'm planning, but that could, of course, change. Not really digging this. I think I'm going to go ahead and sculpt his face. Smooth this out. I might just have to do that at the end and come up with something to keep that shell in place. It does not want to cooperate. Not for sure. Get my eyes over here, see how big I want to make his eyeballs. I think I could get away with doing the big ones if I can do some indentation. So I just use my ball tool, press it in, and since these are bigger, I can kind of circle around. So hopefully I can get them deep enough that I can drop those in. Now these glass beads are made for like bracelets or necklaces, and they have holes on each side. So I want to make sure those holes are covered up when I put them in here. Miz says, a few years ago I had all 4 Teletubbies, Spider-Man, Superman, 3 zombies, and a witch on the same train on Halloween. All adults. That's awesome. Yeah, I've made a couple masks on my channel, and I've worn them to some things. We used to dress up at work at my old job, but I won't at my new job. And I was pretty laxed on dressing up. So I doubt if there's anything this year, but I do want to make a new mask. Just because. So this isn't quite deep enough, and that foil, since I compacted it so much, isn't going to let me push any farther in. So what I can do now is I can take a little bit of clay and give him some like eyelids. And then I'll worry about his tooth. It also works better on the eyelids with the bigger eyes because I don't have to worry about, covering up so much, because those small ones are really hard to see once you, not hard to see, but don't show up as, I guess that's the same. Aren't as visibly, have as much visible impact once you cover them with eyelids. Miz says, last night I had a Viking on my train. Wish I had a dash cam. Yeah, that would be awesome. You can almost start a YouTube channel just with stuff like that. He's got to have big eyes. I'm picking up specks of something on here. There shouldn't be anything on my wax paper, but hopefully once I put the stripes on and do everything, I won't notice anything. I notice there's a couple little specks in there, but not too bad. All right. Just rolling this out into a snake, and then I'm going to cut it into 4 pieces. And then wrap it around the eyeballs. It says, I've got my coffee, so now I'm awake enough to participate rather than listen. Awesome. It's the only thing on the live streams, it's like, because it's, I'm not doing a voiceover. There's no second takes. So I have to, it's better if I have at least some feedback from the audience just to give me something to talk about. I don't know if I'm making sense. Start with the 2 upper ones. Gloria says it's 5:20 p.m. here, so thank you for being up in the morning. You are welcome. I said if this works for more people, I'll definitely do them once a month on Saturdays. But if it gets to the point where, these are my most viewed live streams, I'll definitely go that direction when it works. Heather says, I'm trying to figure out my new iPad, so I'm out of my depth with this thing. Well, Heather, if you ever have any questions, shoot me a message, because that's all I use for my YouTube stuff. Do all the editing and all that stuff on there. So now I'm just taking this small ball tool to smooth these in. This will get them to get them to bond with the main body. Plus it makes kind of a neat texture that works, I think, for the eyelids. What's my favorite football team? I don't watch football. I live in Nebraska, so I should say Cornhuskers. But yeah, it really doesn't matter to me. I did play that spin-off tabletop game from Warhammer, that Blood Bowl, where it has like orcs and goblins and stuff. I always thought that was cool. And then there was an old arcade game called Pigskin that had like knights and stuff. It was a football game, but it had knights in it. And I think they had a part where they said, send in the troll. Miz says, no, eyelids are perfectly smooth. Well, except for when they have wrinkles. Miz, don't be difficult. Smooth these lower ones in a little bit with my finger there. And if you watch me sculpt long enough, you'll notice I bounce around a lot. You would think I would do everything kind of consistent, but I don't. Yeah, and speaking of sports, I don't really watch any sports. Oh, Miss says I mean that no, they aren't smooth. They always have texture. Yeah, you were trying to be sarcastic, which is sometimes hard to tell unless you just had a typo. But anyway, yeah. So this works. So bring them up a little bit. Still need to finish over here. So just add some texture there. Then I just want to smooth that in a little bit so it's not going down on the rest of his face as much. And I believe I've got those holes covered. I'm really happy with how this guy's turning out so far. So hopefully I don't mess him up with the stripes. So now I'm just going to do his mouth area. Aw, thank you, Heather. Thanks for the super sticker. Greatly appreciated. So I want to give this guy a big tooth underbite. And you'll notice I picked a kind of a yellowish tooth because I thought that would have a nice contrast against his white body. I don't need all of this tooth because I'm going to cover it up with the lip. I'm just cutting off some excess there with the X-Acto knife. This is pre-baked in case I didn't mention that. I do have a video on my channel where I make some monster parts, so I can show how I do all these little pieces that I add to my monsters later. Miss says, I'm a bit tired. I spent most of the night at the ER, had a small cut that got infected, but as I had a fever, they put me in isolation, had to run so many tests. Oh, I'm sorry, Miss. Sounds like that was a big pain for something that, started off pretty minor. All right. The only thing I don't like is how much the eyes stick out compared to the mouth. Hi, Delaney. Delaney says adorable so far. I'm going to try to bulk up this area. Let's see how I want to do this. I'm just taking a little more of my pearl white mixture. I don't want to go too far out. I just want to have it stick out a little bit so his eyes aren't quite as bugged. And I'll still do the tooth and the jaw. Ms. says, I didn't think it was too bad, but we are encouraged to check for fevers, and that's how I found out. All is good, at least better now. That's good. We'll take better. I know I get a lot of small little cuts or bumps and stuff on my hand at work, and it's always kind of frustrating because lots of times it'll happen on a night that I'm supposed to sculpt or something, and I'm like, no. Whether it's visible or not, sometimes I'll have extra aches and pains. Delaney, I am doing great. Just trying to get this little shell monster figured out. How are you doing? So I do like that better. Now I can add the tooth in his lower jaw or lower lip jaw area. So I'll rest that tooth right there, press it in a little bit. Take my jaw lip area, and I'm going to smooth that in around the bottom. Just take my finger and blending it. And then I want to kind of have like a little bit of a curve, like an indentation, have it kind of curve a little bit to give it a little more shape. So I'm pretty happy with the overall look of this guy. I am going to add some little, I like to add little ridges to their lips, give them some texture. I'll bring him up so you can get a real good look at that. Gloria says, and the pre-baked will stick like it would when made together. Sorry, my English is on holiday. I think your English is great. As far as that goes, if if it was just going to be like kind of free floating, like if it was just on the surface here, I would put some like bake in bond or some liquid Sculpey there to kind of adhere those together. With this piece, the tooth I've got a little bit underneath, and since I've covered it up with this other clay, it's going to be fine. It's going to be baked in there. It's not going to go anywhere, and it doesn't hurt to bake your pieces multiple times as long as you stay with the proper temperature. Ms. says, I'm trying to decide if he looks mean, dorky, or sleepy. He could be a little bit of both. Delaney says, I'm doing good, about to run a few errands. Nice. Kind of shape these a little bit. I do have some wet wipes at underneath my desk I'm going to use to clean off my hands a little bit and start on the stripes. Gloria asks, so you can't overbake it? Um, I think you could if you had the temperature too high. I don't think I've never had an issue baking multiple times. I've had pieces where I would sculpt a little bit and then I would bake it because I don't want to distort what I've made. And then I would add to it, bake it again. I've done that with like a lot of I did these zombie heads, and that way I could do them layered. And I've never had any issues with anything burning. The only thing is just make sure with whatever oven you're using is you might want to have like an extra oven thermometer to make sure it's at the proper temp that it says it is. There's a little speck here I want to get rid of. Most likely, if I see any specks, I will cover them up with the stripe. And the thing with the zebra stripe, I don't have to necessarily do him white. I just thought it'd be a nice contrast. Even white mixed with pearl is one of my least favorite things to work with because I'm already seeing a lot of little specks it's picked up, but hopefully it's not noticeable in the finished product. I think that'll work. So I really don't need to worry about doing any stripes kind of below here. Anything else I probably will. And I am probably going to cover this up almost down to the end. Gloria says, all cool. I always put all in if it's finished, but that would make things easier. Yeah, and just make sure, Gloria, too, like, I mean, you don't want to bake anything after you've glued something. You don't want to bake anything if you've added some gloss to it. Ms. says temperature is more important than time. I have a bracelet that I baked for 4 hours at the correct temperature, and it holds up great. Yep. That's kind of what I've heard too, and like I said, I never go over the 30 minutes recommended by Primo, except I do multiple baking sessions. Gonna get a drink. I'm gonna get my hands cleaned off and get these stripes rolled out. And these kind of wet wipes don't work as well as washing my hands, but I don't have a sink down in my art room, so I don't want to be gone from the stream that long. So I'm just kind of going with this. Miz says I use Fimo mostly, but I have a few packs of Primo, Keto, and Cernit. I don't know which that one is. Heather says, could you just bake the whole block of clay? I know you save clay by using the foil, but is it a must when baking this type of clay? That's kind of to me, a gray area, Heather. And the reason why I say that is because the packaging says if it's over a 1/4 inch, you want to do it longer. So you could do it, but you want to bake it longer. And I'm like impatient, I guess. and like Miz has had experience with baking them longer, but I haven't. But they say a half hour for every 1/4 inch. So I mean, this guy here is, you know, 1.5 inches maybe. So you're looking at 6, so 3 hours. No, yeah, 3 hours of bake time. Probably saying it wrong, but Cernit was the first polymer clay I saw, says Miz, sometime in the early 90s. See, I remember getting Fimo a long time ago, but then when I got back into clay, I went with Sculpey 3, and I had some issues with that, so I thought, well, I'll spend a little more money and get Primo, which is still by Sculpey, and I really liked it, and I've stuck with that. And for the longest time, the only glow-in-the-dark clay I saw was Sculpey 3, but I had a friend pick up some clay for me the other day, and she said they had glow-in-the-dark Primo, so she got some of that. So I might do a video comparing the two of those. I don't know if you've had any experience with either one of those, Miz, or comparing those two. So just off camera, I have my little pattern here. I'm not going to try to match the pattern, but I do want to kind of make it more sporadic, I guess, more random. Miz says, I think Cernit and Fimo are more common in Europe. Hi, is it Rika? How are you? Just working on a little shell monster today out of Primo Sculpey. So I'm just going to put the stripes on, and then I'll push it in so that way they're not sticking out. I don't want them to look too bumpy. I mean, it's still going to have some because I'm not painting them on. No clue if this is going to look decent. So that's the fun of doing things live. I used to do a lot of zebra stripe things, but I haven't for quite a while. And I will probably roll out some thicker too, because in my example there's a lot of thick spots and different widths. And then I think my plan is I'll have it kind of start and wrap around, and then like it start on the other side. You see a little speck I want to get rid of. Main thing with these zebra stripes, I don't want them to look too uniform. I don't want them to be symmetrical at all. You know, roll out a little more black clay so I can do a few thicker ones on him. All right, let's see what I can do here. I'm noticing it's getting a lot of specks and it's really starting to bother me. And you can pick them out with this. You can smooth them in with rubbing alcohol and a Q-tip. The problem is if I smooth them in with that, you know, then I can transfer the color from the stripes. Miz says he'll be really cool with that pattern. Thank you. I hope so. It's what we're going for. It's what I'm going for. I might just have to accept the specs. Not let it drive me crazy. All right. Kind of my rule of thumb on these is I don't want them to cross over. If you notice, none of them, I mean, like, you'll have these V shapes, but it's not like this one then runs into that one and then goes like if it did, it would stop. I don't ever see it going and then keep going straight like it's going through it. So that's what I'm shooting for here. So this one, I want to kind of do a V-shaped, but I want a little bit longer, thicker spot here on the end. Where do I want to put it? That I don't know. Can have it start over here. My stripes stuck together. There we go. Miss says, a doll artist I like uses a catchphrase, embrace the wonk, and I love that. Specks of clay still bug me to no end. Yeah, and that's, like I said, that's why I kind of avoid the lighter colors. But I thought mixing the pearl, I mean, it does help since it's not the straight pearl. It's not guaranteed to stop it all. I thought about doing like a Dalmatian one, because then I could just put the spots over it. And like I said, I've been trying to do that with the stripes, but they seem to still show up, you know, in between the stripes. Just trying to figure out where I want to put this next one. All right, we're getting there. Now he does have some specks here, and those I can clean up with some rubbing alcohol because there's no stripes in the way. Hello, Kirsten. Can bring him up for you to see. He's been a little bit of a troublemaker this morning. But why should a project go perfect when I'm, sculpting it live? That would be silly. All right. Getting there, getting there, getting there. Need some more black. So, Kirsten, how are things in your world this morning? And Kirsten says, you always make it look perfect in the end. No, I don't. Don't give me that much credit. It's a lot of pressure to live up to. Gloria says, looks cool already. Thank you so much, Gloria. Kirsten says, volleyball game this morning, so sorry for being late on the stream. No worries. I appreciate everybody coming on, even if it's just for a little bit. It's always nice to, it's like an extra time to socialize. Do want to just fill in a little bit more here. I don't want to overdo it. Kristen asks, is that pearl? It is pearl and white mixed together. I didn't want it to be a solid pearl, even though I would have less issues with the specks. Ms. says, I usually cover up imperfections with texture, shading, or sanding when I can. I haven't done much sanding. I've done it on pieces that were a solid color. I don't know if I want to attempt that with this guy. So, let's see here. I feel like I'm not being varied enough in my stripes. I'm going to do something a little bit different in this area. I'm going to bring this up, make it a little bit thicker piece. Have like a little bit of a twist to it. then I have a little bit of clay here. I think I can work in right on the back here. And these stripes came pretty close to blending together, but there's definitely, or there's a little bit of space there. I have a speck in there, but I think I can get that out and smooth it. See how that looks. I think I'm going to go a little bit lower on the side here. There's not a lot of it, or there's a lot of space still sticking out. So go this kind of a thicker in the middle one. Give it a little bit of flow to it. I think that fills it in nicely. And I'll put another smaller one underneath there. Gloria says, how will you make sure he stays in the shell? I am going to use some liquid Sculpey to kind of bond him in there. I have had ones come out of the shell after the fact, after it's baked and everything, and then I just pour, put some super glue gel down there and then push it back into place, and that'll hold it. My issue with this one is because he's so heavy, I'm going to need to put something around the shell, but I think he'll need that permanently. So I'm going to see if I have something I can kind of like make a faux rock for him. All right, so got squished a little bit against the wax paper, but that's okay. Ms. says, I think the use of a reference picture is what makes it look so good. If I had done that, it would have been simpler and I would have remembered how intricate a zebra pattern really is. Yeah, that's something I learned from doing a bunch of other ones. And they're all different, but I just printed out this one this morning. And again, I wasn't trying to match it, but I just wanted to keep it, that randomness to it. Felt like you needed a little more here. This is where I get into trouble with my sculptures when you're doing like spots or stripes. Like where do I stop? I definitely don't want them to cross over. I think I'm going to do, I feel like it needs one more right there, but I want to keep it small. Still not quite happy. Let's put a little bit more in here. All right, what do we think of the body of our little zebra striped shell monster? I'm going to set him down there. I'm going to get my rubbing alcohol and a Q-tip. If I can remember where I put everything. So I've got that. And then I have my liquid Sculpey. You can tell this is a pretty old bottle that I'm going to put in there to kind of help adhere him in there. Ms. says, I think he looks great. Thank you, Ms. So I just put some rubbing alcohol on there. Just going in to little spots that I see stuff. Trying to go into some of the bigger gaps of the stripes. He's got a lot of issues down here, but that's going to be in the shell, so not really a big deal. All right, I'm going to gently set him down. To see what I have, if I have anything I can use for some kind of rock for him. Thought I had some, yeah, I've got some open packages of kind of this mixture. So I had some gray granite and some brown mixed together. I'm just going to kind of make a big rock. Miss says, I wonder what rubbing alcohol is. Yeah, it's, I don't even know how to say it. But, you know, it's basically for first aid, but it works really well for, with a Q-tip, cleaning that off. Picks up those little specks or smooths out the surface area. So I think I want him to sit like that. Now this piece here, I'm just going to, you know, jam it against the shell and bake it. And then after it's baked, I'm going to pull it off and glue it into place. But, you know, right now it's going to be resting on it. It's not going to have any issues coming out. And then I want to take the ball tool and give it some texture. Use this big ball tool so that way it has all these like kind of edges. It says, thanks, I hear it a lot, but I don't think we have anything with a similar name in Sweden. Yeah, I'm sure that you have to have something like it, but I don't know what it would be called. All right, so I think, will this work? No, don't fall. Trying to figure out where the like majority of his weight is when he leans over. Yeah, that's what that's what it's called on the back. What Gloria's saying, I just didn't know how to pronounce it. Okay, I think this will work. Seems to be resting pretty good. So I'm just going to put my liquid Sculpey in here. Usually just put a lot in there. And this stuff bakes pretty clear. I mean, you can still see it, but it's not going to, I don't think it causes any, like, you know, visual issues with them. Yes, Gloria, you have it correct. Thank you. All right. I think that's it. That's not the best view of this guy, but I don't want to, I just want to shift him over to the baking pan. So I appreciate everybody coming on today. This was a really fun stream. This guy was a little bit stressful to do with the stripes and the specs and all that stuff, but he worked out pretty well. I will post a picture of him in the group, either later today, tomorrow, whenever I get a chance. And I'll be sure to show him off. I'll do probably a Andrew's art live stream sometime in the next few weeks, just showing off recent creations from my live streams. Thank you, Ms. All right, guys, I hope you all have a great day. And remember, never stop creating. Bye.